Hi everyone, my name's Steve. I am the new Auckland Maths Association president for the next wee while. We are slowly letting people in. Oh, someone has got control of the slides. Awesome. Welcome to this. Well, it's nice and sunny up here in Auckland. I'm not sure what it's like in the rest of the country, but we are blessed with sunshine this morning. I'll be out in the garden this afternoon once we get through these morning activities. Thank you for giving up some of your time this morning to join our presentations. I'm sure our presenters are looking forward to engaging with you. Feel free to use the chat. As you can see on the screen, if you have used Zoom before, it's self-explanatory. If you're not sure, there is a chat button somewhere on your screen towards the bottom. It's important to be able to hear the presenter. Just make certain that you are on mute. We are recording these sessions this morning, so if you want to come back to them or look at one of the other sessions that you have not signed up for, feel free to have a look at those once they get posted later, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Just a little bit about myself. Robin's going to flick forward. I grew up in the sunny Bay of Plenty. I've now lived in Auckland for about 25 years. I attended Auckland University, qualified with an engineering degree back in the 90s. And more recently, when I moved into teaching, finished a maths and statistics degree through Massey University. I currently teach at Pakuranga College in East Auckland, where I am the assistant head of department and in charge of level 1, and also in charge of the GATE program. A little bit on my plate at the moment, slowly finding my feet with this new role as president. 3 daughters and a wife, so it's an all-female household, so that's reasonably challenging at best of times. And I live by a simple motto, which is maths must be fun. And that's something that I really want to encourage through my time with the AMA, is how do we make it more fun for all levels of maths, right from year 1 right through to year 13. Just a couple of things about proceedings today. This presentation is by Dr. Michelle Dalrymple. You may have been aware that in recent times she has been awarded a very prestigious award, the Prime Minister Science Teachers Prize. The first time a non-science teacher has ever won it. So congratulations, Michelle. That's something that I guess you will look back on as you move on, that you've done it for the maths teachers and hopefully set the bar for others to follow in your footsteps. On a sadder note, this week we had the passing of a very predominant New Zealander, Sir Vaughan Jones, a prominent mathematician who did some of his training at Auckland University and more recent times was involved with Berkeley. Famous for the fact that in 1990 he was awarded the equivalent of the Nobel Prize, the Fields Medal. So that's reasonably sad news. That's all for me. Hope you enjoy your morning. Michelle's got a great presentation lined up and hope you enjoy. Over to you, Michelle.
Okay, thanks, Steve. We'll just do the technical swap screen stuff over. And I'll get the slides up. There we go. Right, here we go. So my first time with an online thing, so hopefully it's going to work okay. It's all kind of a bit bizarre for me, and so yeah, we'll see. Firstly, Morena koutou katoa, thank you very much for getting up early on a Saturday morning. I'm not sure if you're usual sleep-ins or not, but being here and dressed at this time on a Saturday morning is an achievement, so thank you. If you've not met me before, just a little bit about my whānau. So my husband Mark and my son Troy, And of course, the dogs. Some of you may have seen them at past presentations, or I think Cornelius has even hit the media a little bit over the last few months, which is really cool. So we have Daisy and Cornelius, 2 bull mastiffs. They are now 4.5. And I also have 2 Kuni Pigs, Parker. Marilla's there on the left and Dorothy's on the right. I've been teaching at Cashmere High School for 17 years now, and I am at the stage where it's kind of scary when you add up how long you've been teaching. I've been head of faculty at Cashmere High School for 14 years. Cashmere is a large co-ed state school down in Christchurch. Our current roll is around 2,100. 10% Māori, 2% Pacifica, about 8% Asian, so predominantly European. We are just finishing our earthquake rebuild process, which has been significant for the school. And the maths block is the last one. So for the last 18 months, we've been out of our block and essentially homeless and scattered to the far reaches of the school. So we're definitely at the stage as our faculty. I have 18 staff who are ready to get back together in our new block. I have, because doing an online presentation where I sit here and do nothing is really bizarre. So I've tried to set up a poll everywhere. So I'm really curious to see if this is going to work. It is the free subscription. So only about 50 people can respond. So there's a link there at the top, which I'm hoping Robin or possibly Steve might be able to post in the chat so it's easy for people to click in. Let's see if it works. I'm pausing. No one's got there yet. Robin's looking like she's about to drop the link into the chat window. Don't hold back, because once we have enough, we'll carry on. I want to see if it works. Woohoo, here we go. Here come the results. It's quite cool because it's live. If you've not played with this one, it is quite a cool app to add onto your slides, and it was useful when we were online. And of course, you can pause it somewhere like that and go, well, how many people might have responded? All right, we'll give it another minute, because currently my gut feels 4 people have responded well. Cool, cool. Here they come. I'm going to disappoint the person who was after dogs. Sorry, I left them downstairs. They've known to be gassy, and when the door's closed, it's not pleasant. Yeah, cool. So the live nature of this is really neat. All right. Interesting, Max. I had no idea who was going to be here this morning, so I've tried to plan something that may or may not work for you. We will see. So sorry, I'm scrolling too quickly. Here we go. So what I have planned for today is to share a little bit of what I value and what I do in the classroom to hopefully get you thinking about what you value and so what actions you take. I need to be really careful. I don't want to come across as preachy, like I know everything, because I don't. I just want to try and get you thinking. So that was my challenge and where I'm at with trying to do the talk. It was quite a hard one. Sharing my teaching values with you. I teach through relationships. It underpins everything I do for Nonutanga. The flip side of that is it's also my job to never give up on my students. So that's where I started from as a teacher. Trying to put your values together in some sort of coherent way is a really good learning skill as to who you are as a teacher. And Grant Ritchie and I also, probably about 6 or 7 years ago now, started going, we have good teachers in our faculty. What is it that they do that is transferable to others? How can we get those skills that they are doing to help other teachers get better at their practice? If you are that good teacher, what is it you do that others can learn from? And it's actually really hard to articulate. It's not just who they are as a person, but what actions they take. Like I said, relationships underpin everything I do. It's so important if I want students to take risks, to make mistakes and share those mistakes, to push themselves outside their comfort zone, to want to come to class, that it's a safe, enjoyable environment for them. And if they don't have that, then it's going to make it really tough. Research shows that even just taking feedback on board, it needs to be someone you've got a positive relationship with. If students, that extra layer that we have to deal with being maths teachers, the whole maths anxiety issue, which often year nines, I've got a year 9 form class this year and you can see it in them. If they don't have that relationship with you, then it makes it much, much harder to get through that side of it as well. So that's why I value them so much. And it's also what makes being a teacher such an amazing job. So what's really important is to get thinking about how do you set that tone for the start of the year? How do you set it up? So knowing relationships underpins everything I do. I still want students to be learning and being successful. So as a faculty, we have some faculty expectations within what we do, and I expect my teachers are working towards them. If you have a quick scan through them, I'll talk about the red box soon, but hopefully it doesn't look like anything that's too unusual or too out there. The students should be learning, and it's not okay for students to be opting out. That can be one that's hard to deal with. And as a faculty, we've workshopped the classic scenarios of how students get out of and avoid learning and gone, well, how do you deal with all those different situations? And that's been really useful too. So that's what I'm expecting my teachers to be working towards. And of course, the question for the leaders out there, what are your faculty expectations and how do you actually articulate that with your faculty? Because that's really important. And for the classroom teachers, what are those things that will feed into what you can do in the classroom? So you'll have faculty and school-wide expectations of you, but what is it you value so much you're going to establish it and maintain it right from go? What are your non-negotiables? So something, hopefully you get you thinking around it. For me, I have three things, get the fingers right, Michelle. 3 things I go through with my classes on day 1. So I was just going to quickly share those with you so you can see what they are. So to start with, work hard, be nice is my motto. When I have a classroom, when I had a classroom, when I have a class again, we're getting there. I had work hard, be nice and great big letters at the back of the room. And that covers pretty much anything you need to have a conversation with a student about. If they're being naughty and misbehaving and distracting others, they're not being nice. If they're not coming to class ready to learn with all their equipment, then they're not going to be able to work hard. So it establishes that that's what my expectation is of them on day 1. The other thing I do is if you YouTube Never Give Up, you'll get this wee ad for cheese, and it's cute and sad and inspiring, and you need to go and watch it. But it comes through with the theme of never give up. And so I can have the conversation with the students on day 1 that I expect them to be learning, I expect them to be persisting and trying and giving it their best. Also, the way the ad is set up, it shows that I bring the humour in from day 1 and have those clear expectations of them. The red box, I'm sure anyone who's been in a classroom knows the bugbear of phones that have been, over the years, got worse and worse. It seems like teenagers can't leave them alone. So in our faculty, we have a faculty policy. We've brought in this red box. It came originally from a blog post on a distraction box. We trialled it with a few teachers, and the way it works is on day 1, we explain this to the students. But essentially, at the start of class, there'll be a clear phones away now signal. We're about to start maths. While you're getting your maths books out, pop your phone away. And then if you see your phone out, if you're in full attention, you try really hard to just keep doing what you're doing. Continue what you're trying to explain, walk over to your box, walk to the kid, hold the box out, kid puts the phone in the box, you walk back, carry on. So it's a really low-key, non-confrontational way of dealing with the phones, but the expectation is the students put the phone in the box. If they don't, then we do have red cards in the box, hence why it's called the red box. And our red cards are just straight to the contract room because it's defiance. It's one of those serious offences. I've checked in with faculty. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 red cards for phones across the years we've been doing this. So it does take the heat out of the potential conflict that you might have with phones. It's the expectation. It's not a big deal. You don't hold grudges with the kids because they've had their phone out. They get them back at the end of the period. It's really useful because you're not touching their phone, which for some students that can be quite scary. If you are going to institute anything like this in your class, if you're going, that's a really good idea, feel free to flip me an email to get more details. But a few wee things that I've found, learnt from over the years. If you have a full red box, I think 7 is my record in one period, then be careful when the kids come and collect their phones at the end of the period, because there's nothing more frightening than a student going to get their phone and it's gone, and their friends sitting at the door with a really cheeky grin on their face with their phone in their hand, and you're going, I hope this turns out all right. It did, but yeah, that's my one trick. And if you're not sure if you've given out that red box, the phone's away signal, just go, Lily, thank you for reminding me. I can see you've still got your phone. I must have forgotten. Phone's away now. Students, of course, can use phones if they want to, if they check with you first. Miss, can I take a photo of the board? Yes, of course. Miss, I don't have my laptop here. Can I pull my phone out to do my look at the Google thing that you've put up for me? Yes, of course. It's just remembering those manners about it. So we've found that really, really useful. But again, on day 1, explaining that to the students, it shows that you have clear expectations of their behaviour, but you deal with it in a low-key and a matter-of-fact way. You want relationships to be at the forefront. My third thing this is just a personal one, sneak eating annoys me no end. So I talk about it on day 1, and don't sneak eat. If there's a reason you need to eat in class, just ask and I'll let you, and just be polite about it. And that's pretty much where it goes. And again, it's just that respect and using good manners and modelling that from day 1. I'm a human teacher. I know that sometimes you've had science tutorial or lunch and you can't eat. You were late to school, but you're here, have something to eat. And that's fine. Don't sneak eat, because that brings that conflict back again. Establishing the class culture as a faculty, names, all my staff are challenged to learn names as quickly as they possibly can. And if there's anyone out there going, I can't do names, I've always struggled to remember names, it's something I'm not good at, you know that I'll just put my growth mindset conversation on with you and go, well, your best practice then, haven't you? Find the way that works best for you. We can all get there. You can get better at this. And as a faculty, we've shared the different ways that work for each other, and it's all different. And so you can always get lots of ideas of how to remember. I'm a spatial person, so I draw up a seating plan. If it's juniors, I'll put them in a seating plan, and the handy hint is alphabetical order by first name, because then you can give yourself prompts. If you've got this one, then you know the other one's going to be similar in the alphabet. Some people make name cards, and the big idea with learning names is, yes, learn them, but also let the students know that you're trying to learn them, and then you get a lot of grace and forgiveness if you get it wrong. So building the class culture, I think, is so important. But my question for you, and this is a new one, I have a Wordle, so see if it works. What is it that is super important to you, and what is it that you care about? And while we're waiting for responses, Robin, are you able to pop the link in the chat again so that people can find it easily? And are there any questions that maybe have come through? Because I'm completely ignoring the chat window. Steve, is there anything that's come through that would be useful?
Nothing yet.
Okay. This word looks cool. I like this one. I feel like I may have done some sort of anchoring type effect here with relationships being so big. Either that or it's just a really sensible thing for people to be saying. I was doing a little bit of reading on US stuff, and it feels like the New Zealand teaching culture is relationships and everything we do. Yeah. This is cool. Very cool. I hope it saves it at the end. Steve, can you take a screenshot of that so that we know we've got it?
No.
No pressure, because it's moving all the time.
I just want to know where you found this awesome thing.
It's poll everywhere. and it's an add-on to PowerPoint, and I think they've got the add-on to the Google Slides now too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
All right, I best carry on for the sake of time, but thank you for letting me play with a new thing in it. That's brilliant. Oh, hang on. Click. Right, so the questions for you. Make sure you stop and reflect between now and when you start your classes next year. What is your ideal classroom? How do they look, feel, and act? And what is so important to you that you're going to make sure you establish those things on day one? So that's the challenge. And it will depend on who you are and where you are and what context you're in. For us, relationships underpins everything we do, but it's the balance between the learning relationships and the getting to know you activities. We're a large school, so pretty much every year other than our year 10 cohort, students are in a room with people they don't know on day one. So it's so important that they do have an opportunity to get to know each other, but it's having that balance. We've had some teachers in the past that maybe have spent a few days too long working on relationship building activities that don't have the curriculum link. And so the question is, do you do some maths on day one? Or do you go, relationships are so important that you want to spend a little bit longer doing it? And that's a decision that you need to make given your context. I can't answer that. I do maths on day one. Some of my teachers don't. Some of my teachers spend day one playing the name game so they can learn names on day one. And if you've not heard of the name game, it's that one where you sit in a circle and the first person says their name and a word starting with the same letter of their name, usually food related. So I'm Michelle, I like maths. Steve might say, that's Michelle, I like mushrooms. I was trying to come up with a word, food one. There's Michelle, she likes mushrooms. I'm Steve, I like
Strawberries.
Cool. And then Anne would say, sorry, I can see these three people on my video. Anne would say, that's Michelle, she likes mushrooms. That's Steve, he likes strawberries, and she'd add in her own one. And that's cool, but for a class of 30 students, it takes quite a long time. And the ones at the start get quite bored. And so, yeah, it's one of those ones that you need to make those decisions on what's right for you. Humour is super, super, super important for me. I use humour to strengthen and develop the relationship. So students come to class and enjoy being there. It relaxes them, takes a bit of that tension out and makes them feel part of a community. And it can be just laughing at the silly things together. It can be me laughing at the jokes I make and then laughing because none of them are laughing with me and making fun of them because of that. But it can also be a hook to get students into things. It can be, I do have planned for things. We do Friday punnies each week. And of course, the long-term joke with the calculus with the C with my year 12 class. I've been doing that for a while. Very first day of year 12 calculus. Knowing that we're differentiating for, 3 or 4 weeks, then usually holidays, they make a C on their very first day. I don't tell them why. They're all asking. I say, you'll find out. But their C is required equipment, beautifully decorated. I take them away and laminate them, give them back. Required equipment through the calculus topic is their C. They're starting to wonder why. I throw out there, don't lose your C quite a bit, show me your C, etc., etc. They come back day one after the holidays and we start anti-differentiation. And they roll their eyes and groan, and I laugh at them as they have clicked on why they need their C and why it was such a big deal. I think you're getting a feel for the sort of teacher I am, and this is what I do with my kids, yeah. But it brings them memories, and they've still got their C's. We're nearly at the end of the year, and they will wave them at me and go, look, I've still got it. And yeah, it hopefully means that less of them don't make that silly mistake in their exam, which is the point. I've not actually collected data on that. The other one is student success is really, really, really important. And the research backs this in that success leads to motivation. It's not the other way around. And so we want students on that success, motivation, more success spiral. And so the question, of course, is how are you ensuring success for students right from the start? And again, especially at that junior level, the maths anxiety is so important to try and break through by having a successful day one. So just a few of the activities I use, and apologies primary teachers because I don't know how relevant these will be to you, but hopefully it gives you an idea of the sort of thing that you can grab. So Year 13 stats, we start our courses with bivariate data, and so Barbie Bungee is our perfect first learning activity. Builds the community, the students are working together, they're laughing, they're having fun, but while they're doing it, and it's also a task that anyone can manage with more or less scaffolding, but as a teacher, I rove and I'm assessing and I'm looking for those physics students that will struggle to take up to 2 measurements and then find a physics model for their elastic bands and work out Barbie's jump height from there. To the students who are actually going really quietly, sitting by themselves with their group and not too scared to talk and go, we don't know where to start. And so it gives you a lot of that information, both socially and academically, on where your students are at. But once you give them a few prompts, they can all put rubber bands around a Barbie and make a jump. At junior level, I don't think we're atypical, starting with number as our first topic in Year 9 and Year 10 actually, but Year 9, Day 1, I usually either do number visuals or a prime climb task, which is essentially linking to the curriculum, your primes, your multiples, your factors, but all students can sit there and colour in. How powerful their colouring is will give you an idea of where they're at with their learning. If they're sitting there not even quite sure where to start colouring, that tells you something else as well on Day 1 about those students. But once you give them a few prompts, just colour in the patterns you see, then every student should be able to achieve something about that. So it gives them that opportunity. Something else to think about, and this will depend where you are placed in sort of that leadership structure within your school, are your courses set up for success? For example, previously we used to start our Year 12 academic course with algebra as our first topic, and everyone failed. And maybe not quite everyone, 2/3 of the class would fail the very first test at the start of the year, and that was really, really hard to pick students up from. So now we start with trigonometry. We say on Day 1, you're going to find this relatively easy. We expect you to be getting about 90% of you to be getting excellences, and that's the bar we've got to aim towards. But if you work hard in class, you won't have to spend too much time out of class on trigonometry, and you're going to be working on your algebra, so that your algebra, when we hit the topic, is confident and fluent and up to speed, and all those things that we need you to get into your long-term memory are there for us, so you don't drown and you can keep up with us running. And we have those conversations, and we've set the structure so that they have the time to do it. So just trying to get you thinking about these sorts of things. And expectations and celebrating success. So are you articulating with your students that you're expecting them to all be successful? I often find myself through our stats topics when I will let them know, you know, all the work we've been doing is at excellence level because that's what I'm expecting you to be aiming for. Why wouldn't you be? That's my default. And nearer assessment time, I might go, hey, look, this is what an achieve looks like, so that you can kind of go, oh yeah, I've got that, I'm aiming for way more. But I'm very careful to articulate those expectations. It might be that with my Year 12 stats class this year, they did amazingly well at inference. So of course I say, you did amazingly well at inference, but now I know you can do it. I'm going to expect the same for simulations. And so having those conversations with them is really important. So the questions for you keep thinking about, what do you use at the start of the year so all students can experience success? And have you created structures to build student success if you have the power to do so? Or are you going to have a conversation with people who do have that decision making there? Right, you've established your class really well, but you need to maintain those relationships throughout the year. So some of you might have seen our bubble before, trying to find activities that are fun, we laugh, that are curriculum based and relationship building, and aiming for that sweet spot is really important. So I have one to share with you, and if you're not a Year 13 stats teacher, hopefully you'll just enjoy it and take from it the idea that you're trying to get something that is those things. So now's the time to find your marshmallow. If you have one, I hope most of you have bought one. And now's the time to know that I'm also going to ask those of you that know me to take your microphones off mute, because this is going to be really boring if we're all sitting there doing this in silence. It will only work if you're unmuted. I want to be amused, which is half the point of doing this activity. So again, if you know me, there's a backstory on Marshmallows. I try to incorporate them in every workshop. I have no idea if this is going to work online. There's a link here that hopefully Robin is going to drop into the chat. So I'm going to run with you an experiment my year 13s have just run with our class. So when I change the slide, there's going to be a tongue twister come up, and I want you to time yourself on how long it takes you to say that tongue twister 3 times. And then by the time you've done that, hopefully there's a link in the chat which you can go put your data into that Google Doc. Hopefully, all going well. If you have a marshmallow and your phone number ends in an odd number, before you start saying your tongue twisters, please very carefully place your marshmallow under your tongue. Okay, you've got that, and then say your tongue twisters 3 times. Okay, so here we go. I can see Anne's putting her marshmallow in her mouth. So we best flick it over before they start dissolving. Go.
Drink tongue twisters 3 times with marshmallow under tongue. Under tongue. It's melting.
Yeah, you've amused me. Thank you so much. If nothing else, you've amused me.
It's melting.
Good.
Oh. I'm gonna eat it now.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. If you had a marshmallow and your phone number was not an odd number, you are welcome to eat your marshmallow now. All right. Do we have any luck with getting the link into the chat window?
It's in there.
Oh, I'm just going to escape out of my PowerPoint and see if I can look at the spreadsheet. Let's see.
I can share it if you want.
So hopefully, can you see the spreadsheet on your screen now?
Yeah.
Yep, cool. So hopefully you will be able to see live data collection. And we won't spend too long on this because I don't want to get growled at for going over time in my workshop. So if a few more people could jump in and just type their time in would be awesome. And if you watch it as you type your time in, your dot should appear on the graph, which is quite cool. All right, let's head back to the presentation once I find the buttons to hit. Go. Okay, so the question, of course, is why this activity? It's fun. You were laughing, I was laughing. If nothing else, it amuses me. But it's also building relationships. So it's the first one at level 3 experiments where my students design it themselves and they run it with the class, and the class gives feedback to them. So you've got that whole aspect of relationship building within the class happening. But it's also curriculum related and surprisingly got enough guts in it for the students to use for year 13 experiments and be practicing researching. You've got the whole history of tongue twisters and where they came from and why they're used nowadays, and speech and language therapy and being tongue-tied and what's the most difficult tongue twister, etc., etc., etc. So it gives you a lot of guts there. So keeping those things in mind. And just really quickly, here's another activity that I have used for our level 2 stats report. So the start of the topic, I ran a class survey. Some of it was really sensible on getting feedback and feed forward on where the students were at and how we could improve things for them. Some of them were questions like this, where we then used to critique throughout our stats reports topic. So yes, they laughed, yes, they rolled their eyes, yes, a few said other and put names, and so we've given them a hard time ever since. And yes, I'm meant to be getting lots of chocolate, which is really cool. So yeah, that's the challenge. Keep in mind that overlap of the bubbles there, trying to get those 3 things whenever you can. Sometimes it's not appropriate, but try for it sometimes. The other thing that I've been trying really hard to do is reminding myself it's good to be a critical thinker, to evaluate things through the lens of what works for you in your school, what works for me in my school. So I'm always looking to add new tools to my pedagogical toolkit. So not sure if you've seen this 5 practices for orchestrating mathematical discussions, but you may have seen it in the DIMIC guys. So the 5 practices sort of underpins a lot of the DIMIC work. Bowler, I'm presuming most of you have probably heard of Joe Bowler and the mathematical mindsets. Some of you have probably heard of Craig Barton and the work he's done, and you're starting to go, oh, there's maybe a conflict going on in those sort of pedagogical areas. I consider what works best for who, what, and when, and why. And I'm going, well, all those things that I'm learning about is just adding to my skills, and I'm going to pull some of it out sometimes and others of it out sometimes, and that's really useful for me. I'm not going following that's going to work all the time for my students, because it's never going to be sustainable, and it's not. I'm always seeking advice and support on improving classroom management, but just because you get given advice doesn't mean you need to act upon it, and that's sometimes a challenge for young teachers to keep in mind. Bill Rogers is my behaviour management guru. We often play videos for him for the staff at the start of the year, but you need to be able to go, not all of his stuff is perfect for my context. Some of it doesn't work for me. And so it's having that critical lens, that critical thinking when you're taking things on board. I think it's really, really, really important to make sure you're looking for inspiration at the start of each year. Quite a few years ago, I wanted to show something inspirational to my faculty. We get together as a faculty, and you know how as a head of faculty you want to re-inspire and rejuvenate your teachers. So I found Rita's TED Talk. It's amazing. If you've not watched it, go and watch it. And then the next year I went to look for something else so that I could do the same sort of thing. I couldn't get past Rita. So now it's an annual event where we replay Rita's TED Talk to the staff and re-inspire them. But do try and surround yourself with some of those people that challenge you to be a better teacher as well. And so look for those inspirations wherever you can. I shared this one with my faculty at the start of this year because it really resonated. So a Serenity prayer. There's a whole lot of things we can't change as teachers, but there are things we can change. And the challenge is we want to be thriving as teachers and not just surviving. And for some of us, it's really hard not to be perfect all the time, but we want to be really good 80% of the time so we don't fall to pieces. We are aiming to teach to thrive. And these are the things that hopefully I've touched on a little bit and got you thinking about and reflecting on what you're going to do to make sure your classes are set up successfully. And the one thing that I think Robin asked you to bring some paper, and so I haven't quite figured out how to get this one into the talk. So here's my challenge for you. Before the end of today, take 3 minutes on your paper to draw the very best horse you can. Take a photo and share it in there with that, into that link there. When you've done it, stop and reflect on how uncomfortable you felt drawing that horse, or possibly how uncomfortable you felt when I've just asked you to share your horse publicly. And then go, well, how do my students feel when I ask them to do something that's outside their comfort zone? Do they trust me to know that this is right for them? Have I articulated with them that this might feel a bit uncomfortable and I really need you to jump in and give it your best shot? And of course, the how do you get better at drawing horses? And some of you might have been practicing for years because we've done this in a few workshops. It's practicing. You get better by practicing. How do you get better at maths? By practicing. So if you haven't quickly jotted down that bit.ly link, do that now so that you can add your horses. And if this is a complete failure, if nothing else, I'll amuse myself by having a look at your horses later. Got it? I don't know if Robin's popped it in the chat. I don't know if I sent you that one.
Yep, it's all good.
Cool. Okay, I'm done. I have no idea how I went with timing.
It's 9:40.
Woohoo! Have there been any questions that have come through the chat?
Robin and I have tried to answer most of them.
Okay.
There's a couple more about information. How do you get the postcards you send home?
I got students to design them, And so we're on our second iteration of the designs, and then Vistaprint. I just uploaded them and got Vistaprint to print them. So yeah, they're pretty cheap.
Cool. And Rita's last name, although Robin's put the
Pearson, yeah, I think it's Pearson.
Pearson. Cool.
I think, yeah.
Cool.
Michelle, can you please share any other good activities in the sweet spot for that very start of the year, including especially the junior classes? I guess that's the critical thing, isn't it?
Okay, I'll have a look, and I'll upload all of this onto my blog and send the link through to Robin to share with you guys. I'm just trying to keep all my workshop resources together in one spot. So you've got the recording, but I'll pop the slides and anything else useful I find in there for you guys. No promises.
I think one of the things, as I was eating the marshmallows, which taste disgusting,
real ones in.
I think one of the things, food, investing in a couple of packets of chocolate biscuits or some food type activity comes back in spades, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, but you've got to be mindful of the food thing. Yes, that sort of fun stuff is great, but I've got 2 students in my year 13 class this year that we've had a few more challenges with, because anything nutritionally wise, they won't go near. So I'm thinking back to bivariate data, and we often use as a teaching data set the McDonald's nutritional data. Couldn't this year, didn't work for them.
Didn't work, yeah.
No.
Or water's always good.
Oh yeah.
Something with
They
water.
happily partook in the marshmallows experiment, because it's nothing to do with nutritional stuff, it's just fun. So yeah. A new one for me this year, that one.
Michelle, someone's asked what your blog name is.
Oh, I think it's Dr. Dalrymple WordPress.
All right, we'll get Robin to share that information somewhere.
Yeah, I'll share the link all up.
There it goes. Anna's done it. Any other questions, everyone? Okay. I'm not sure how much time. Robin, how much time do we have?
Can you lip read, Steve?
No, I don't have her on my screen, unfortunately.
So Robin Averil's just asked, if there's time, can you please share some good tips for having a team approach across the department?
Oh, off the top of my head, trust Robin to come up with a hard question.
Not a hard question, but I think you've got some really good ideas about that, Michelle.
I think it's, if you think about all the things you do to establish your class well, it parallels with establishing your faculty well. So setting up together with what your expectations are on day one, but also we've spent a lot of time workshopping what our faculty vision is and how we're going to work together to get it, setting up our strategic plan, and we always sit there and talk about maths and it's a safe environment. But going back to how I established all that, yeah, that's hard. I don't know. Pick the right people and get them working with you.
Is it also something about, I liked your never give up on any student? And
oh yeah, you never give up on any teacher either.
Pardon?
It flows through that. You never give up on any teacher either. Yep, that's definitely the way to go. But yeah, there's a lot in that question that you just asked, Robin, that off the top of my head, I don't have an articulate, easy answer. But yeah, similar stuff to what you do to manage your class. So who are your leaders and get them on side? Who are the dominant personalities and get them on side and on the same path? Who are your ones that are a bit anxious, and how are you going to get alongside them and bring them on board?
Just something from me, Michelle. We've implemented the restricted phone policy in our maths classes at school this year, despite our SLT not wanting us to do it. But we've had great success with improving the engagement. That now our HOF is now trying to push it as a school-wide implementation. So I think that technology is wonderful, but it has to be managed carefully.
And there's experiments out there showing that it's a distraction, and we've run those with our scholarship kids from time to time. But if students say, I need my phone, I'll just go, well, show me the data to prove that. But I think the real key for us with that red box is making sure it's done in such a non-confrontational, matter-of-fact manner. And it stops the argy-bargy. You'll have kids sometimes that go, but I wasn't using it, miss. And depending who the kid is, you just ignore them, or you'll just go, that's not my point. And it goes into the box.
All good. So Robin's giving me some private instructions while she's busy sorting out the next.
Do you want me to fix the next slide, Robin?
We've got a couple of minutes left if anybody else has got some questions. The chat's recorded, so if we can't get to some of the questions, I'll make certain that the chat is shared with Michelle and she can take time to respond in her own way. I'd like
I had a question, please.
Sorry?
Yeah, I want to ask a question here. Michelle, could you please tell, you said a very well point that student success brings motivation and helps to break math anxiety. How we can actually ensure the student success to experience for them from day one, or maybe which could help the students, especially who have fear for mathematics?
It's being really deliberate with the tasks you choose on those first few days, and making sure that sort of classic low entry, high floor, high ceiling. So low entry where everyone can access something, but because you're still usually getting to know your class, they need to be able to run a fair way as well, so that you don't get bored kids on day one. Some of the bowler work is really good and useful on around there. And if you've not had a look at the U-Cubed website, that's a good go-to.
Oh, great, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, everyone. Look, thank you for your time this morning. If you are moving on to one of the other workshops, hopefully you have the link to it. I'd like to thank Michelle. Inspiring as always. Thank you very much. And I am going to say goodbye. Enjoy your Saturday.